Hey there. Although I am involved with CADAC, the Center of ADHD Awareness Canada, the views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the participants and do not reflect those of CADAC. And now, cue the music.
This is the Impulsive Thinker Podcast, a show for high-achieving ADHD entrepreneurs. Together, we will inform and educate you about how to improve your self-awareness while developing systems, routines, and habits for conquering the entrepreneurial world. Here is your host, Andre Brisson.
Hey there, it's Andre with another short for the Impulsive Thinker Podcast. This episode is brought to you by CADAC, the Center of ADHD Awareness Canada. This past Monday, you just heard me interview Dan Sullivan, the co-founder and president of Strategic Coach. He is my entrepreneurial coach, and we talked about the gap and the gain, and the book that him and Dr. Benjamin Hardy published in October of 2021, which is based on one Dan's concept, the gap and the gain, and a small book that he wrote in 2019 from his Ambition series. And a few things that was discussed on that call I wanted to further talk more about. The one thing that we did talk about is how when we talk about the ideal is a future vision of ourselves. And with the ADHD brain, we put a lot of emotion in it, and we think big, and we got an ability, especially an ADHD entrepreneur. So with that ideal, we were taught when we were growing up, it's a skill that we were told to always look forward. So by looking forward to the ideal, we were never happy. Okay. And then what Dan said that really hit me was that we measured against the ideal. We were not happy. So we tried harder the next time. We didn't achieve it because it's the ideal and we weren't happy about it. So we tried even harder and then keep that cycle going and going and going. So by doing that, we were never happy. And then this want became a need, and this just became a habit that we always looked forward, and we're never happy with what we're doing. But if you ask anyone else around you, they're like, why are you upset? You've got a successful company. You've got staff. You've got a big house. You've got toys. You've got this. You've got that. And you listen to it. Well, that's actually true. But I'm not achieving what I want to achieve. That's because we're always looking forward and measuring forward to the ideal. And the only way we can do this, that's the gap. So to get into the gain, we have to look backwards. So when people are telling you or reminding you of your success, I think we need to listen to those and take ownership on those and say, you know what, hey, turn it into positive focus. You're right. I do have a big house. I do have toys. I do have staff. I do have a successful company. We are making money. And we got to it's a cognitive effort to build this new habit, this new strength mindset of the positive focus. And I thought that was very intriguing when Dan said it that way, measure against the ideal, not happy, try harder, not happy, try even harder. I just look back after graduating from university, college there, working, starting my own first company, Jada Engineers. I was never happy because I never achieved the ideal that was in my mind. And it became such a negative reoccurrence. The ADHD brain just, ruminating, going over and over and over. Technically, I was in the gap for quite a few years until I joined Strategic Coach. So as an ADHD brain, we got to make a cognitive effort to be aware and start using this positive focus tool. Because I know it changed the way I see things. I use it with my girls. I use it with my wife. I use it with my staff. It changes your outset. So look back to see where you were to where you are. That's the true measurement, not where you are to where you want to go, because you'll never get it. So I thought that was very intriguing, is when he said that, that really hurt. That hit me hard. And that was, it's a bad time in my life, even though successful, but I was never happy. So not necessarily bad, but not happy. And happiness is where you're at, not where you want to be, is another quote from Dan Sullivan I think is very key. Right. And the other thing we also discussed, which I thought was really, really cool, is the ADHD brain likes urgency. So we do not like to prepare. We do not like to get things done slowly. So we hold things off to the end because it becomes interesting and urgent, and our brain fires up and we can get stuff done. That's the way our brain works. But what really intrigued me is he said, but we feel guilty not doing it before. So you listening to this, is that true? Does that validate a feeling that you have regularly? Oh man, I should have done more before, then I could be caught up, or I can be more ahead. I could have got done more. right? So when he said that on the episode, the first thing that came back to mind is that that's another gap thinking. But the thing is, in this case, it wasn't ourselves setting us up to the gap. This is ourselves. Well, I guess in a way it is ourselves. But the main point I got out of that is that not starting sooner, not doing more work sooner. Whose measuring stick is that? Is it mine? Is it yours? Or is it everyone else? That was very powerful because to me, it's like, you know what? Yeah, my brain, and I like to do things at the last minute because of urgency, and I can focus and just get it done quick because that's what our brains can do, and that's what the ADHD person can do. We can do things very, very quick and last minute and when it's urgent. But everyone else in the office, everyone else around you, they can work on a project, 2-month project, and work a little bit on everything every day, and we can't do that. So now we're comparing ourselves to them, to other people. So we're now using their measuring stick for their progress. And since we can't do it like them, we go into the gap. And this is where I've been talking a lot with many people. And it's like some realizations is we got to keep using our measuring stick. The only way our ADHD brain can stay in the game is by using our measuring stick. So instead of comparing ourselves to everyone else who can do a bunch of stuff, my measuring stick is I do things last minute. So either I chunk it down into smaller steps with more deadlines that can break it out in stages and get it done over a period of time, or I do it all at the last minute. In the end, if I hit the deadline, that's my measuring stick. I did it my way. And that's what I've been fighting for my whole life. And I want everyone else to understand the way you do things and how you do it is unique to you. And it's the only way you can succeed and achieve. So start using your measuring stick. If you don't know what your measuring stick is, now you're aware. Start looking and developing your own measuring stick. Stop using the measuring stick of others. Okay. Now, kind of a bit of an ADHD moment, a little bit excited, had a checklist, didn't follow through. I think this is a huge monumental gain, epiphany, or experience for me. Dana and I were talking, and 17 minutes in, I noticed I did not hit record. We have been talking for 17 minutes. I leaned back in my chair, and in my head I went, crap. Then I stopped Dan and said, Dan, you know what? Man, this is too bad. It's a phenomenal conversation, but I forgot to hit record. And he just looked at me and said, okay, that was a rehearsal. Let's do it again. And not to be upset about it. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? I am not upset. Now, when I first realized it, my emotions started to go up. I started to build up. And my old self would have been F this, F that, blah, 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 crap. And then just would have controlled, like taken a bat to my own self and just beat myself to a pulp. That's what I would have done in the past. But now that I'm a lot more aware of my ADHD and how I understood how I was using other people's measuring sticks to not work well, I stood back. I said, you know what? It is what it is. What can you do about it? There's nothing I can do about it. All I can do now is just hit record and start the conversation over again. But I was really proud of myself because I did not let myself get all frustrated. In the past, this would have just derailed me for the second interview and it would have been crappy. And then my mind goes, it's usually the second time around is crappy when something like this happens. But you know what? I said, no, that's in the past. There was rehearsal. Let's go. I completely got rid of that whole experience. I looked forward. I said, looked in the back behind me and said, you know what? That was rehearsal. We have a better idea what we talk about. And let me tell you, what you just heard on Monday was 10 times better than the first rehearsal that we had. For me to be aware of how my brain would have reacted, how I used to be in the past, what can you do about it? Positive focus. I had Dan on the call. He was not upset. He was willing to do it all over again. And we did it. Massive gain. And that was a massive step forward that now I'm aware of, and I was never aware before how my mindset has changed over the last 2 years. That's a little pride of myself. Wanted to share that with you. But some of these other thoughts, remember, figure out your own measuring stick so you can measure yourself. Let's not use other people's measuring sticks. Let's stop feeling guilty for doing things the way what we do best, not to feel guilty on how we do it. We do it our own way. We get results this way, and it works every time as long as we're good with it and not feel guilty and get into the gap. Thanks again for listening. I hope this week you've got some good insights and actionable insights. And if you'd like to share this with people, I would highly recommend that you share Monday's episode, as the concept of the gap in the game is very powerful. And thanks again for listening. And I'd like to hear from you. Please put a comment, rate us, or send me an email at questions@theimpulsivethinker.com. Thanks again for listening. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Impulsive Thinker podcast. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion for the show, please visit theimpulsivethinker.com. The Impulsive Thinker podcast is produced by Tactical Breakthroughs and hosted by Andre Brisson. Remember, ADHD is only a part of you, not all of you.